I didn't have a house. I was squatting with a friend of mine when I started, because as a lecturer, I hadn't earned enough to get a house. And she had come to do her internship, and then later on NYC. She chose to do her NYC in Port Harcourt, and she got a house as a copper, and I moved into the house.
Hi, everyone. Welcome once again to another edition, another episode of Behind the Scene of Energy. And today, I am delighted to have someone who I have always looked up to in the industry. To those in the oil and gas industry, I'm sure you know him. He's a big name, and he's someone who is of great impact to the industry. And to those who are always wondering the network of people I'm bringing to this, those in the oil and gas industry, apologies, but we are here to practically learn from their experience, how they've been able to navigate life and get to see the challenges and maybe how they were able to solve it or something around it. So, like I said, I'm delighted to have Engr Chikezie Nwosu, who is an accomplished industry leader, a mentor and advocate, whose journey reflects the power of vision, partnership, and intentional leadership. Engr Nwosu began his professional journey as a lecturer in the Nigerian university system, and he got married quite early, at a stage where the future may not have looked as bright as it is now, or maybe as established as it is today, yet through clarity of purpose, resilience, and mutual belief, he and his wife built a life and journey together that continues to inspire many. Over the years, he has become widely recognized as a strong supporter of women in the workplace, so much that many in the industry describe him as a true he for she. If you've watched the introductory video I did, you would see how I explained who an he for she is. And he is actually one of those who I knew to be called that name, like the first person I knew to be called an he for she advocate. From creating opportunities for women to supporting their growth, even during vulnerable seasons. We'll get to hear more about that in the course of the discussion. His leadership has consistently challenged outdated narratives about gender and career advancement. But beyond the professional visibility, he's a husband, he's a father, and he's a man who has remained relevant across generations, yes. Because he has witnessed, like, this is like the third generation he's witnessing, and I'm sure he can relate to what is normal, we like to normal during his own generation, my own generation, obviously, and now the recent Gen Z generation that maybe are in the course of career advancement and all of the partnership, trust, leadership, women support, intentionality, fatherhood, and what it really means to build a legacy that outlives titles. Welcome to Behind the Scene. Thank you very much for accepting this invitation. It really means a lot to me. And I know that those watching would be glued to their screen because we actually have a lot to learn from you.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. And you're doing very excellent work. I think this is great. Reaching out to younger people and getting them to learn from experiences of others. And I hope when you post this out, I'll be able to watch it or listen, hear comments or read comments on it, and maybe help a little bit more to give them a little bit more of my experience as well. But this is great work, Mr. And
thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. So now let's start from the life, maybe let's say right after university, a little bit like that. So you say you started your career. I was opportune to actually hear this during your 60th birthday. And you mentioned that you started your career as a lecturer. So at that time, what vision did you have for your future?
Oh, I just wanted to be a lecturer. And the reason for that is from a background of university teachers. Yeah. My father started off in the University of Ibadan. There I was a small child in kindergarten. And then he moved from the University of Ibadan to the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka to the University of Lagos. And this was the life I knew. Very comfortable life in those days. Lecturers and professors were fairly well paid. And so I decided that this was something I was going to pursue. And especially, I loved the interaction between my parents. My mom was also a university teacher. I loved the interaction between my parents and the students, the fact that they were passing on knowledge. So this was my. So once I graduated from the University of Ife, I had a choice of either continue to teach at the University of Ife or go to another university. There were two. I studied engineering, science, and there were only two universities that offered me the opportunity to practice this nuclear engineering. One of them was the University of Ife, of course, and the other one was ABU Zaria. So I opted to go to ABU Zaria and start working for the Center for Energy Research and Training in ABU Zaria, which was sponsored by the International Atomic Energy Agency. And I worked under a very great mentor of mine, Professor Shamsuddin Elegba. And, that's where I was doing work. I did my master's in ABU Zaria after a bachelor's in the University of Ife, now Bafemi Awolowo University, of course. And then I was going to do my PhD. I started, thinking through my PhD after my successful master's defense, but I couldn't get a scholarship to continue because I decided that I wanted to do a PhD abroad, but I couldn't get the scholarship. So by that time, things had become a little bit more difficult than when I started in the university. So I then opted that, out of a chance encounter with a friend of mine who was in the University of Ife with me, I still remember his name, Aroko Dari, who had now joined a company called Schlumberger. And Schlumberger is an oil services company. And, I met him and, asked him, I said, what are you doing? And he explained to me what I was doing. I said, that this looks like an interesting area. So I decided to leave academics and go into the oil and gas industry. And that's where I moved over to Port Harcourt in Rivers State. But because I was still pursuing an academic career, I transferred my services from ABU Zaria to then Imo State University in Okigwe, which is now Abia State University, where I started teaching theoretical nuclear physics and the like, while waiting for an opportunity to join the oil and gas industry. By the time I joined the oil and gas industry, I first of all joined in a service position, but later on when I joined Shell, I joined as a technical expert. So that is the route I was still taking. And, it was about learning, developing myself and teaching others. And finally, I ended up my technical career in Shell, although I went further in Shell into a slight management role. My technical career in Shell ended with me as a global principal technical expert for difficult reservoirs. And I was the first African parented principal technical expert in Shell Global. And I was also director of courses for petrophysics and integrated reservoir modeling in the Shell Open University in Rijswijk. So that was my, academic technical expertise career, which was still about teaching and giving back. So developing my talent and teaching, even when I was in the industry. So that's my passion, always been.
Yes. Yeah, I like that. So I see where having a goal, knowing what you actually wanted, because I believe because you always wanted to be a lecturer, you wanted to impact people, you wanted to pass on knowledge. It was easy for you to find a niche for yourself within the industry. And that actually paved way for you because most times, I look out for people who give back, who teach, because it's easy for them to actually grow at within their career because you obviously know what you're talking about. So the moment you identified as someone that actually knows it, everyone will be looking out for you at the top seats. And I like how your career trajectory actually moved and you got to a point where you were the first African to actually sit on such a big seat. Well done, sir. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to now. Okay, yes, you started as a university lecturer, and I want to know about your, will I say, marriage journey. So, did you meet your wife before you joined the industry or after you joined the industry?
Okay, I met her during a transition. So I had dated while I was in the university. At a certain stage, I was told by the mother of the girl that her daughter would not marry a lecturer. So that was my first experience of rejection because of my chosen path. So no potential was seen in me at that time. And I then was transitioned to Port Harcourt, where the oil and gas industry was, because I'd gone from ABU's area to Imo State University, and I was going back and forth from there to Port Harcourt. And it was during those kind of these things that I first, landed on the fact that, there were opportunities to look towards getting married. Now, okay, by the time, of course, I did start with my then my now wife, then girlfriend, I was already transiting into the oil and gas industry. But I was still transiting, as somebody that, to give you an example, I didn't have a house. I was squatting with a friend of mine when I started, because as a lecturer, I hadn't earned enough to get a house. And she had come to do her internship, and then later on NYC. She chose to do her NYC in Port Harcourt, and she got a house as a copper, and I moved into the house. So I moved because of course I didn't have a house of my own. I was just starting my career. The lecturing career had not prepared me to buy anything. So, but we slowly furnished the 1-year apartment they gave her in NYC. She was working as a pharmacist for NNPC, strangely enough, in Port Harcourt. So, yeah, so I then, moved in with her. And I think shortly after that, I had to, go abroad for some time. I did some work abroad, came back, and then at the time I was ready, I now announced to her that I wanted to get married. I still didn't have a house. So actually, when I even went to meet with my parents in Enugu, they were living in Enugu then. I didn't have a house. So, but my wife actually knew. She kept saying that what she saw in me was the potential. Yeah. Now I'm not quite sure I saw that potential myself because at that time I was struggling. And like every young person, I was asking, have I done wrong? I went through the university, dedicated first class degree in University of Ife, master's with distinction. What was I doing wrong? Why I couldn't, settle down and get married and everything. So I got married while I was in transition, to be quite honest. Yeah. And I'm not sure how well we funded the marriage, but we did our best. Okay. And then we started on the journey of life. So I would say to young people to the table, I know those conversations are happening now, is about companionship, what both of you are able to build from wherever it is you start. And you can start from scratch. Yeah, provided both of you are serious-minded, dedicated, hardworking as well. It will all work out.
Wow. This is giving the Nollywood vibes. And I like how you actually talked. Okay, now, so I think my next question would be, because you already talked about maybe after you got married, you've been able to ask her, what did you see that potential in me? Like, what was there anything you did that was maybe intentional for her to have like, okay, yes, look at you, like, yes, there's a bright future ahead, or I just want to know because I know that's what would be on people's mind now. A lot of guys would say, yes, I am I have a prospect. The future is going to be bright. The question is, how do I know it's going to be bright? So probably maybe there's a conversation you and your wife has had to let's see if we can get to know how she saw the potential in you.
Yeah. I think the word that is used now and what my wife has said to me is that, I came across as saposexual. I think that's what they use. Extremely intelligent in conversation. And I tried to teach her. So she had challenges in things. And the kind of exposure that, I was giving to her was about reading newspapers, watching the news, reading books and things like that. So even the first time I went to see her parents, I had managed to buy a small, very early laptop, small computer. And so they knew me as that, young man who was always carrying around a small computer with him. I can't remember the name of the computer. It was one of those very early, heavy-looking laptops. But I used to carry it with me, and I used to explain to her how to use it and share with her and things like that. So I think it wasn't actually potential as in potential to make money, but potential that I was intellectually gifted. I think that was what it was. And that's what she's explained. It wasn't because I was the most handsome or the richest or anything like that, but I just came across as somebody that was together with respect to my focus on building myself and having the intellectual ability to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's also a good one, because maybe sometimes for women, when you meet someone, you just want to project your children in the person, and you are like, okay, so can this person actually help nurture the type of children I want? So obviously with your intellectual knowledge, yes, sapiosexual, everybody
Well, that's
actually
one of the
wants.
things she said.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things she said. She wanted smart children. Yes, she did mention that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's good. I think a lot of people need to come and learn from your wife. So now looking at you started your career in the oil and gas industry, and you mentioned that your wife was a pharmacist in served as a pharmacist in NMPC. So how were you able to manage? Because I believe that you working in that space in the oil and gas industry, you obviously had a lot on your table. So how were you able to ensure that your wife's dream and identity were also supported?
Sorry, come again. I didn't get the last part. I think
Okay. I said that how
the
did
network
you
was a little.
ensure that your wife's dreams and identity were also supported?
Okay. So the first thing is I asked my wife what she wanted to do. Do you want to continue working with NMPC after service? And she said no, she wanted to start her own retail pharmacy outlet. And so I started saving up towards that. And combined with what her father gave her, we started one early small pharmacy in Port Harcourt called Zebrock. Zebrock is actually the name of our first child, who came about the same time we're starting the pharmacy, Zite Bruno Charles. So that was the name of the pharmacy, Zebrock. And we registered it and she started running it, and I saw she was able to run it. So this was her, this community help and things like that. So I was there to support her. And of course, as I built my career, more and more funds became available, and I continued to invest in her and in the pharmacy as well. Now, somewhere along that line, and this is some of the things about how a woman sacrifices sometimes. By the time I joined Shell immediately, almost immediately, sent me on a foreign assignment. And we're a very young family. By that time, I had 2 boys then. And I decided that I wasn't going to go alone. I had to go with my wife. And we're going to the Netherlands. And she had to almost abandon her career, hand over the pharmacy to some people to run for her, and joined me in the Netherlands. And that journey in the Netherlands, on and off, took us from 1990 to about 2009 when I came back and forth. And then for her, from that time, back and forth, there were periods where we came to Nigeria and went back again. But finally, she came back in 2017. In that period, she did postgraduate degrees, got specializations in pharmacy from both the United Kingdom and the US. And again, I was sponsoring some of those things just to keep her occupied and keep her developed, because she was the kind of person that couldn't sit idle. Yeah. And so I came back before her. When I came back, a lot of Nigerians who were abroad were relocating to Canada. And I didn't want my family to relocate to Canada because it's Nigeria. I'm Nigerian. This is where my passion is. So I said to her that I want her to come back to Nigeria with me instead of relocating to Canada. But I needed to set her up. Okay? the pharmacy in Port Harcourt was too small for where she had grown to, which is called Simply Health. Actually bought commercial property because by that time I did some reasonable. I think she has about 5 branches, yeah, and around and she runs them. She's building a new one, which is her headquarters, and basically, she's that involved, yeah. So it was not just about it was about my giving back to her as well for the number of years she sacrificed to follow me while I was going on assignment, yeah, and she gave up her career and everything. But fortunately, we managed to get it back for her, when she decided to come back to Nigeria. And we've both been in Nigeria since then. We do have a home in the Netherlands where we go to visit from time to time, but this is the country. And this is where we are making all the investments we need to make, both in oil and gas and in pharmacy. That pharmacy chain is called Simply Health, and it's a pharmacy and supermarket chain as well. Okay, so you see, it's about building the table, constructing the table together, and not
Yes.
bringing it to the table.
Mm,
Have a table
mm.
and we build it.
Yes, yes. I like that because I think that's one other fear a lot of people have. As much as, yes, we want the man to be like the head of the house, to provide, a lot of ladies lose themselves when they get into marriages where the man is actually very busy. Because I was actually looking at where the story, the journey was going when you said you had to move to the Netherlands. Because I was initially thinking, did she become a housewife? It's like full-time housewife and all. And just saw how the story just like
Almost.
changed, and she went on to earn further. And no, that's actually really good. That's actually really good to know. And I believe this is a lot to learn from. I can see how you've been able to sustain the marriage, the individual personalities, career aspiration through different seasons of life and the sacrifice you both had to make. So now I'm going to still continue with marriage, but now in terms of having children. You said you already had 2 children before you moved to the Netherlands. So despite your busy career and leadership responsibilities, how did you remain present in your children's life while they were growing up? Because you've been going in and out, but you came back before your wife. How did you both navigate that phase with children?
Fortunately, we're in the Netherlands, and where there's no, if you want to get house help, it's very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Shell was very, very good in terms of flexible working. Yeah. So flexible working required that I didn't have to start work at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, which was the case for Shell in Nigeria. We're allowed between 7 and 9:30 in the morning, which meant that I could see the children. Okay. See them very early in the morning before I went off for work, do whatever I needed to do domestically to support this help before I went off to work. And then the flexible working as well was that I could close early if I finished my tasks and continue to do some of the work at home as well. So I really used to, deliver and find time to be with the children. We could also, take off weekends. We had weekends on our own. My wife has a rule that I don't work weekends. As a matter of fact, I cannot ever remember taking my laptop when I was in the Netherlands from the office to the home. The laptop stayed in the office, and I went there to work. And I once in the office, I did not have the laptop with me. Yeah, if you wanted to reach me, fortunately, that was it. So by striking that right work-life balance, I made sure that I was not seen to be a workaholic at home, but I was seen to be a workaholic in the office. So let office think of you as a workaholic, but let the people at home think of you as a present father as well. And we used to have so many events. Every weekend, we had something to go for. Football for the boys and girls. My daughter was also growing up and learning to play football there. There were, school events, things like that. And I would make out the time to attend it. So I did make out the time to go for school events. I wasn't missing. I wasn't one of those husbands that was suddenly missing because of building a career.
So will I say you were fortunate to have been in a space where work from home had actually started way before Nigeria even actually adopted it. So now I think this conversation would actually even be very relevant now that everyone has opportunity to work from home. And I love the rule your wife actually puts in place because it helps you to define the narrative. Yes, you are the workaholic at work. You know, you do your work, you do the tasks very well. And when you come home, you are husband, you are father. And I also liked when you mentioned that you actually assist with domestic with domestic chores and all.
I don't cook. Let me just raise my hand. If my wife hears this, she says she does domestic chores. I do not cook. I could do every other thing, but if it came to cooking, I almost burnt her kitchen down once. So she banned me from the kitchen.
Oh, okay. No, that actually still okay. We can excuse you from cooking, but at least you assist with other things. So yes, balance is needed. So I like that. I think I am
All my
actually
boys,
learning.
all my boys,
Sorry?
yeah, my
I'm with
boys
you.
and my girl all had a schedule of doing domestic chores. My boys would clean, wash plates, do everything. There was nothing that was said, oh, this is the girl's job at this point. No, there was a schedule my wife drew up, washes, maybe Monday, Tuesday, one boy washes, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It was like that. And if it was anybody's turn and they were busy, they could go and negotiate with the other child to do their job for them, but they would always have to pay back somewhere or the other. Yeah.
That's
And
transaction.
so they've been brought up now to appreciate the fact that these are not gender roles. Domestic work are not gender roles. Yes.
Yeah. Yes, I like the upbringing and how you've been able to make them identify a lot of things that are now even seeming as big problem, just even within relationships, down to when people get married. And it's actually even one of the like maybe reasons for divorce because there's no support and everyone is claiming this is a male role, this is a female role and all. So I just think having the initiative to know that you are actually supporting and these things would be beneficial for everyone. So in a bit, I think you've answered my next question, but maybe I'll put it in another way because I wanted to know what shaped your narrative. But now looking at the way you bring up your children, what your wife has put in place and everything, I can now imagine how you actually became the he for she advocate everyone I am called you. So maybe I would just go to a story that I actually read on LinkedIn. And because I actually follow your post on LinkedIn a lot. I know you don't post every time, but when you put out your post, I actually take my time to read them because I learn a lot from the management nuggets you drop and other things. So you shared a story once about I don't know if it was on LinkedIn or maybe an SP program I attended, but I know you shared a story about employing a lady who was very close to her delivery dates. And I, as a woman, I know how that feels like because there's this fear of right after you have your baby, you want to take maternity leave, which is expected. Because I actually had a funny scenario, but I would not talk about that. No, this is about you, and I want to learn from you how. So, what gave you that confidence to make that decision, despite the concerns that obviously many employers would have, even within the company, there'll be some employees that'll be like, yeah, we want someone for this role. We need someone to take up these responsibilities now. But the person you are employing would actually be away for a while. So how do we fill that gap? So, and what did that experience, will I say, maybe how did it change? Did it change any narrative or did it help you learn more things about leadership or empathy, or probably you were even the one that were able to teach more people about these things through that experience?
Okay, so one of the strongest skill set of a leader is empathy.
Mhm.
People think of it as a weakness sometimes in some organizations, but I think of it as a strength. I also come from a background where I have professional women all around me. Actually, my sisters tell me that, when they hear I'm a he for she, say, you had no choice. Your father was a he for she. And the reason why I say my sisters, one of them is Nigeria's first professor of neurology. And so Professor Njideka Kubadejo. The other one is a professor of pediatrics. I think that's what it's called in the United States of America, and owns our own clinic. So, I think both of them followed the academic career of my parents, myself and my brother, who were the dollar ones in the house, I would say. We weren't as brilliant as the girls. Had to struggle and then put into industry. That's the truth. So, but sister tell me that you had no choice, yeah, but to be an advocate for he, for she. And I saw them go through periods, of course, where incidents in my last company. One of them was about a senior person at an asset management level who was having a difficult period with giving birth. Those challenges happen. And I gave her more than the usual maternity leave. Yeah. And this was actually shortly after she was hired. Okay. And it was a critical role, but I said to her that we'll go ahead, do whatever you want to do, and come back again. A very brilliant lady. And she did, gave birth to two beautiful twin boys, and came back and did an excellent job covering for all the periods she missed. She's now my executive director for HSI Refining and Petrochemicals, and soon, and basically leads that effort. So she actually joined me as an empathetic leader who saw the potential in her, did not the excuse of Beth to, put her down. And when I was leaving, she joined me. Okay.
Wow.
And we're working this journey to HSI Energies. The other one was a young lady as well, who we were hiring as a field engineer in the refinery. And just as the issue met, want to cancel the appointment. And I said, you cannot do that. Yeah, that there was nowhere we required that the young lady would not get pregnant. And so what we did was declare it until she gave birth and also was ready to come back to work, and came back to work in the Ibigwe refinery as a field engineer and did extremely well as well. So again, I don't see what the issue is. I honestly don't. And being pregnant is not a sickness. Yeah, it's not. It's a natural thing, a natural phenomenon that happens. And it is something that women should carry with pride. An organization should actually support those women as part of the organizational culture. It cannot be different.
This is actually very, very emotional, because I can't imagine what was going on in the mindset of these women when you actually made this decision, because it should just look like, wow, is this really happening? Is this real? Wow. This is a lot. This is a lot. Well done, sir. Like,
But it should be normal. It shouldn't be an extraordinary thing. It should be normal, to be honest.
Yeah, it should be, because it's a natural phase. It's just like saying, because you want to employ a lady, she should not go through what nature has actually put in place for her. Yeah. Okay. So now, looking at how you support women even in these vulnerable moments, and I know a lot of women will have this question, like, how can they position themselves to genuinely receive support, mentorship, and sponsorship? Because I know a lot of people talk about sponsorship, which is quite different from mentorship. And I think you were one of the people that made me understand the difference between sponsorship and mentorship. So how do you think women can put themselves in that position to be sponsored by maybe leaders or even colleagues in the professional space? Hello?
Some time. Okay. So yes, I do make a distinction between mentorship, coaching, and sponsorship. Typically, mentorship can be outside the organization. You can find somebody as a mentor outside the organization. A coach can also be outside or inside the organization. But it is necessary that a sponsor is either inside the organization or has a contact with senior executive in the organization. That sponsor is the person that speaks for you in those rooms where you're not there. Okay? So they're not speaking from you just because they want to promote you. They're speaking from you from a point of, providing facts about you. Because too often, when these conversations are happening about promoting women and things like that, there are not enough sponsors in that room that can stand up and say, this young lady, this woman is capable of doing this. Just give her an opportunity together with all the other men that you're considering for this. That is what sponsorship is about. It's not tokenism. It's not about just finding any woman in the organization and say, okay, I want to, sponsor this woman. Is the women have to do the work themselves to get to a point where they can be picked up and sponsored. There's an active part to it, and there's also a passive part to it. The passive part to it is about doing your work excellently and letting your work speak for yourself. It's passive in the sense that you don't have to go ahead and be selling your work every day. You have to make it visible. Okay. The active part is you to engage somebody as a sponsor. Yeah. Okay. That you actually have to go and engage somebody. Yeah.
Okay. So you don't.
You have to look for sponsors who have a sponsoring people, putting people in the right positions. Because, and those sponsors are people that the organizations respect a lot. Don't go and get a sponsor that nobody likes, who rubs up that person the wrong way. Because the moment that person is the person leading your case for you in that room, nobody's going to pay any attention to you. So be very careful, very circumspect about who you select sponsor. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So you have to be intentional about who your sponsor is. And yeah, obviously, not anyone can sponsor people. It has to be someone who can put in the right words for you. And obviously, you have to have done the work. And that makes it very easy for these people to speak for you. Okay, so now talking still about supporting women, I want to speak maybe from the perspective of men. So has there been any situation where people, could be husbands of these women or maybe fellow colleagues of these women you support, misunderstood your intention or assumed there is more than a work relationship? If ever, yeah, maybe you can just talk about how you handled it, maintaining integrity and professionalism.
Your reputation is important, because if you are seen as somebody who is loose morally and things like that, of course, there'll be suspicions from their husbands and their boyfriends and even your wife. Yeah. But if you are somebody who, yes, people have looked at you, watched you as important, so, and please don't go and create a problem for you. So if it's your reputation speaks for you. I can say this over and over again. And that's why most men who are in this kind of situations must protect that reputation jealously. You cannot let yourself be influenced one way or other to do something that, it is not principled in those engagements. Yeah. Sponsorship requires a certain personal connection. Yeah. But a personal connection does not really mean that you would have to do something that is not morally correct, right. Okay. So keep those barriers around the personal. Yeah. And, the other thing that I'm, quite comfortable with is that my wife knows who these people are.
Okay.
As well. Yeah. And, by while speaking to them or going through a mentorship session with them, my phone is either on speaker or if it's on a video, I'm sitting somewhere where my wife can walk past and say, hey, who's that? And I'll explain what it is that is going on. So that transparency as well to your wife is important, because once your wife is on your side and is not suspicious of every single woman that you're speaking to or, helping to mentor, is hearing things about you, being he for she and everything, of course, that has to reflect on her as well. You have to be able to be he for she for your wife before you start being he for she for everybody else. Okay. So it's that ability to stay on the moral, solid ground. Yeah. That, helps you. Will there be situations where people, side talk, rumors, things like that? Yeah, that could happen. Yeah. But you can trust that people who know you very well, if they hear those kind of stories, will come across and say, sorry, this is not the person that I know.
Yeah. Okay, so I think I would just reiterate on what you actually mentioned. You talked about transparency with your wife. And I think that is actually very key. That is very key. Then you being morally upright, your integrity, your reputation, when all of these things, when people know you for who you are, people would even be the ones speaking on your behalf that no, I know this person for this person, and this is how it works. Yes, thank you very much, sir. I believe maybe with this, more men would be comfortable to support women. And so now I want to go to this person
I just have a few minutes left, if you don't mind, yeah?
Oh, okay. How many minutes?
Yeah. I have a
How
minute,
many minutes?
maybe about 2 or 3 minutes left, yeah?
Oh, 2 or 3 minutes. Okay. So I think I will just go to the last question. So I had a question from the last guest, and it is, how do one handle imposter syndrome? So what advice will you give to one to overcome it?
Could you describe what you mean by imposter syndrome? Because
More like someone that is not always sure. Maybe you always want to be at the back seat because you believe you are not confident enough to get things done. You don't believe in yourself.
okay, coaching, mentoring. I mean, I do have an example of somebody who is now a top person in the industry who said to me that they don't know how to speak publicly. And I forced them to start speaking publicly. Yeah, because I was their mentor. Yeah. So you have to have a mentor, understand your weaknesses, and build a personal plan for you to come out of your shell. One of the key things I say to people is you don't have to be 100% ready to take on a particular position, because you're learning every position you take up. So people that sit back sometimes sit back from the point of view, I'm not ready, I'm not ready, I'm not ready. Yeah. And to some extent, I used to be that kind of person as well. I wanted to be 100% ready before I would put myself forward for a position. But I had an executive coach who said to me, most of the people that he sees who are competing for these positions are not as ready as you are. So what's your problem? Yeah. And I started taking this, if I think I'm 70 or 80% ready, I'm going to take that opportunity. Yeah. And this was support on executive coach, somebody I could sound off on and build the confidence that I was ready. So if you see me speaking as if I am a confident person and I know I will pursue opportunities and things like that, from somebody else advising me to do that. Yeah.
Yes.
When I left the academic bed inside the industry and went becoming a manager, a business, who is now very top, without people being able to, come to you and convince you through mentorship and coaching that you can do it, and help you to pull yourself out of the shell by giving you the opportunities to demonstrate yourself. Failure is not a problem. Yeah, failure is a learning tool. Provided you're making the right effort to learn, if you make a mistake, you can correct yourself along the way. That's how you learn. You learn more from those mistakes you make than not even trying at all. Yeah. And the last bit is, like I say to every young person, being called a relic is not about age. Okay. The moment you stop learning and putting yourself forward to learning, you become a relic. So it has nothing to do with age. So you can be a young relic. background I do not want.
Thank you very much, sir. But just one last thing, I would like you to drop a question, any question for the next speaker, just any question that comes to your mind, and you think the answer will be relevant to who is going to be watching this.
Okay. So for the next speaker, and I'm sure the next speaker will be talking about family.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yes.
So it will be family oriented and things like that.
Yes.
So what I'd like to challenge the next speaker on is, something that's come up in several fora that, I've been involved in and things like that. Yeah. And it's it's a touching question about single motherhood and single fatherhood. Why are there challenges of single mothers and single fathers finding the right partner?
Okay.
What's the issue there, and how can it be addressed?
Wow, that's a big question. Okay, network.
Because again,
Hello,
it ties
sir.
into the fact.
Yeah, the network
Yes, I'm
went
still
off
here.
at some point. Okay. Yes, okay. You talked about how difficult it is for single fathers and single mothers to get partners.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So thank you very much, sir. So if you,
Ask them what they would suggest, yeah,
Oh,
and how they
okay.
would address and encourage young people to think carefully about this. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your presence and you accepting this invitation. So you said it's, you have to go now. I thank you very much. I really appreciate. Now let you know when this goes live.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Bye. Wow, that was an amazing session. I learned a lot, and I believe that you all did also. So now it's time to look forward to who our next guest is and how the guest would dissect the question that has been brought forth. So do not forget to subscribe, watch these sessions, learn, because it's actually very important, because I am learning and I believe that you are also learning. So see you in the next episode. Bye for now.